So previous session, I will just recap somewhat, and then we'll move towards first next part. During last session, we have seen that a case study of simple bar under axial loading, and we have started with an actual model. Then we have converted that model into uh, FEA model, and then individual element is separated out of it. We have formulated in a stiffness matrix using a simple basic principle, that is a free body diagram, and then we have these equilibrium equations. These equilibrium equations are further converted into matrix form. This equations typically talks about the behavior of this particular a single element, and this element is now going to one of the representation. He is representing, or its behavior will be represented by these two equations, u1 and u2. And we also seen in a stiffness matrix. So this is typically element level stiffness matrix. This is displacement vector, and this is force vector. Whenever we are going to write in a elemental stiffness matrix, it is requested that you are going to write in a number onto this. These are the node numbers. This is for first node, second node, and similarly I can write it here on right side or left side. This is for 1, 2, because this will be much more helpful when we are going to assemble it. We are going to look at the assembly process quite easily today. And then we are going to combine these equations for all the elements. And then we have seen in a continuity condition, that is what in a displacement as in one of the continuity for it. And this is as it is node number 2 and node number 3 are nothing but in a common for element number 1 and 2. So that's what these equations, this equation and this equation will be added. 1 minute, having some issue. So as this is node number 2 is common to both the places, we are going to add up this u2, and u2 will be represented as in a single equation, and similar fashion for third also. So this u3 equation and this u3 equation will be added, and it will be nothing but representing the behavior of node number 3 like this. Okay. So then we are having here it is in a common element, common node. It will be added in this fashion, and this is, here you can see there are two interfaces. We have two chain number changed out here. So this is what we have seen, and then we have seen this is a global stiffness matrix, global displacement vector, then the system properties and everything. Next we have applied in a boundary condition for it, and to apply the boundary condition means this particular node is to be fixed somewhere. So this is what fixed here by some boundary condition. This is what the way we are going to fix it, and as we are saying this is fixed here, so this is u1 displacement will be 0 here, and there is a u1 value of this particular equation will be 0. That is what it is represented. Then we are going to apply the force at this, means of what are the F4 value will become in a P here, because this is what an external force. And then these two forces, this is the F2 and F3, will be internally balanced forces. That's what this we are not going to apply any external force on the node number 2 and node number 3. That's what this will become 0. They will be getting internally balanced. Otherwise, you can observe the motion in the node, and which is not in practical sense. And this, what are the force, is nothing but a reaction for it. That this will be a reaction, and normally we know that if I am going to apply 100 Newton here on right side at this fixed node, you can get a reaction of 100 Newton equally. and that is what in a way it is a force balance kind of things we do it. And once here we have an only unknowns, so this is one unknown, this is your second, third, and fourth unknown, and we have four equations, and we can quite easily solve this four unknown for equations using any of this technique, that is Gauss elimination, Gauss Seidel, or LU decomposition, or any other simultaneous equation solution methods. Okay. Once we got on a displacement, next part is to determine a strain. So strain is nothing but a deformation of the, this is my u1 displacement, this is my u2 displacement, this is the element, I can have it. So strain in this element is u1 minus u2 upon what are the length of this element will be considered to be a strain of it. Then once you know the strain, you can determine stress by, it is a typically Hooke's law. Hooke's law is a typical law where we consider the stress strain curve. We are going to discuss more details onto this in later sessions. So this is what on a material behavior, and up to this point we consider elastic limit. This is what my elastic limit, and beyond that your deformation changes, and the slope of this curve is typically your E value, means you are going to have a behavior is same as everywhere, and this we consider stress is directly proportional to strain, and this is typically a linear equation. This is a straight line, this behavior is nothing but this is a straight line behavior. That's what stress is directly proportional to strain, and it is passing through the zero. So this is what it is seen it on this particular equation. We can determine stresses, you can determine reactions, so many things we can do it in later stage. Also we have seen in a spring element, because spring is nothing but a property of the material, which is if I consider bar element and bar element, that is stiffness, that is a deflection is nothing but a force L upon AE. Stiffness of this bar, I can write in stiffness of this bar is represented with a K is equal to force upon deflection, and this force upon deflection can be written AE by L like this. Now we are considering spring as a single element with the name of K, and this stiffness contains both properties. This is a geometric property, this is your material property, and again this is again geometric property like this. And we are now not considering A, E, L, but we are only taking value of final K value here, and we are solving one or two numericals onto this, and later on we are moving towards an actual bar examples or something. So for this purpose you can see in a deflection, force deflection equation for the bar element or spring element. So here K is there, this is another K, this should be a smaller one. Then here you can see in a deflection of both the nodes like this. Here this is a force on the both the nodes will be represented by this. We'll take a simple example of bar spring element. This type of problem you can find in so many books, and we want to now analyze this. So here whenever we are going to do the analysis, it is this is what on a numerical it may be asked in the exam, and when you are going to solve this problem, you need to first of all divide this problem into small chunks. That is what an elemental. Now I can have one element here. This is one node, I can say, then this is my second node here. This is what interfacing. Whenever the elements are going to connect it, it is considered to be 1 and 2 node number. Then this is again, this spring is connected out here, and this spring is also connected here. So this particular node is now connected with the 3 element. Now element number 1, element number 2, and element number 3. The same is here also. This is now my node is third, and it is now connected by element number 2 and 3, one edge of this, and 4 number. This is my 3 and this is 4. Each node is now here has 1 du f, which is each node is having 1 degree of freedom, and we have altogether total number of nodes are 4. So it becomes a 4 DOF model. This is what on a 4 DOF, degrees of freedom, because each node we considered as a 1 degree of freedom. We are not considering any other higher degrees. We'll look at when we go for 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, then these degrees will increase. We are only dealing with 1D problems out here. So here that is a typical stiffness matrix for a particular element, and this is node number 1, this is 2, and this is again 1, 2, like this, and this is a force vector, this is deflection vector, and this is a stiffness vector. But when we are going to solve, there is a set procedure. First of all, divide this entire model into small element, give the node numbering, give the element numbering, and then now prepare a connectivity table. This is what in a connectivity table I can say. So connectivity table will have two parts. One is a local node numbers, means I can give a locally number 1 and 2 here. For this node also I will give a 1 and 2 number. This node also I will give a node number 1 and 2, because this is coordinate system sitting in the element itself is called as a local coordinate system, and how we are going to count within that local coordinate system, and that is what it is called as a node number. You can observe here for element number 1 there is a node number 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, again 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But ultimately you want to assemble it. That's what I have to have one coordinate system sitting at the base of it. I can have one coordinate system here. That is, I can say, global coordinate system. And this global coordinate system, and now I can start numbering 1 from one end, and I can go on numbering till the final node comes to the end of this. So that way I can have a node number 1 here, 2 here, then 3 here, and 4 here. These are the global node numbers. So now just look at the element number 1 is now connected with 2 nodes, node number 1 and node number 2. If I look at the element number 2, global node number is 2 and global node number is 3. So that way I can get a connectivity here 2 and 3. Then similarly I can have 3 numbers. The same nodes are as global, but it is adding up the stiffness. That is also to be taken into account, because these two springs are connected to be on a parallel and they are sharing the load. That is what it is going to happen at. And here node number 2 and node number 3. Similarly I can have a node number 3 and 4 for 4th number, and I got this. And this table is very much helpful when we are doing an assembly of this entire part. If you are going to conduct an assembly, we need to take care of these nodes, node numbers, how they are connected to each other, and we need to construct all the 4x4 equations for this. For that purpose, we need this connectivity table for this. We'll now take in a first node, first element, how it is to be set into this, because you can just look at, when we look at this as a 4x4 matrix, it will construct, and there will be 4 elements in the displacement vector, 4 elements in the force vector, and 4x4 matrix will be a stiffness matrix for it. And we want to now locate where that element number 1 will sit into that. So element number 1, and this is what nothing but a connectivity between the element, that is 1 and 2. And we can have a stiffness equations. This is what a stiffness equation. Make sure that all the time you are going to give the numbering for rows and columns for it, because this will be much more helpful when we are going to assemble these elemental equation into a global equations. We need to give a connectivity for this, and this will be much more helpful for us. So here it is now, as your connectivity tables that tells this is 1 and 2. This is also to be written 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 like this. Now just look at the entire stiffness matrix, how it looks. So this is a 4x4 matrix because it has a total 4 degree of freedom. So that's the reason we can have a 4x4 matrix. And here it is in a 4 displacement vectors, 4 force vectors, and all this. So you just consider here it is in a 1, 2 it is written, here 1, 2 it is written. Obviously, this element will now go to this location. This element will go to the location this, and same way it will be the rest of the elements. So that is what it works, and I can show you this on animation point of it. So you can just look at here, this particular matrix will be sit into this global stiffness matrix. This is the elementary matrix, this is the elemental matrix, will sit into global stiffness matrix at this location 1 and 2, and that is what it is decided from these two numbers. Okay, so most of the time we get confused, that's what I took this particular example for you, and then we got assembled one equation. Now we'll look at the second element. Okay, and same way we can assemble into the displacement vectors also. This is what on a displacement vector is added into this. Then force vector, force elements are also included into this. That is what we can work out for it. Then now we'll look at how to assemble in a third element, that is the second element. First element we have assembled. Now we'll look at the equations for second element. Equations for second element means here you can just look into the global nodes. Here though 2 number is there and 3 number is there. My matrix will start with 2, 3 numbers. So it will be written like this. This is a 2 and this 3, 2, 3, then 2, 3 like this. So this is now in stiffness matrix. Here already previously we assembled one element into this. Now this particular element of the stiffness matrix will go and get it added into this. This will go and get it added here. So similar way this U2, U1 and here it should be U2 and here it is a U3. By mistake it was done, sorry, this is U2 and U3 should be there. And this way we can now just look at how that particular matrix will sit into second place. So this is now K will be added here, K, then minus K, this K, K, because it is 2, 3 number and here it is in a 2, 3 number. That way we have assembled it. Similar fashion you can just look at the displacement vectors also. Displacement vector here it is U2 will get added up and here it is in a, this should be in a U3, it should not be U2 but it should be U3. Here it is a 2 and it should be 3, here it is a 2 because by mistake it was happened. Okay, so this is what in a second element, and here also you are going to add up on a forces. This is one force and here it is a 3 number force like this. So this way we have included all second element. Then now we have to assemble again third element. So just look at how the third element will be there. Third element will be having just look at the global connectivity table. So this has a 2 number, this has a 3 number, and this 2 and 3 will get will have a matrix numbers, matrix rows and column numbers for this, and I can now write the equation which is same as this previous one, because node number 2 and node number 3 both are parallel, share the common node. This is what in a common node it shares, and that's what it is going to add up at the same location where we have added previous element. So this is what an assembled within a two elements. Now we'll look at how this will be added into this. So this particular element will be included here. Then this is again going to include it here, minus to minus, plus to plus, like this it will work out. And same way we can work out for displacement vector, same way force vector, and like this. So now we'll look at element number 4, how it get added into your stiffness matrix. So this is what now you just look at the global nodes here. Now nodes are 3 and 4. So my matrix columns and rows number will be 2, 3 and 4. So I'll now include this 3, 4 here. Here it is in a 3. Here it is a 3. Here it is a 4. There is 3, 4 and something. So then we can now include into your stiffness matrix, global stiffness matrix, because this 3, 4, 3, 4 will be here. This is what an entire matrix where you are going to, stiffness matrix is going to sit it here, displacement vector is going to sit here, and force vector is going to sit here. So I can have addition of this. So this will be added here, K will be added from this end, this element will come and sit it here, this element will come and sit here, likewise it will go on adding rest of the elements. In same way you can have displacement vectors, then force vector. So this is what the way we constructed an entire your stiffness matrix and assembly of your global vector, global displacement vector, global force vector, and everything. And after that, the procedure is simple. There are two approaches by which we can solve this. So there are two ways by which we can solve these four equations. Before going into the Gauss elimination, there is one more step through which we need to work out, and that is what it is called as one is elimination technique, another is that is penalty approach. When we are going to apply the boundary conditions, means it is here it is a displacement of the node number 1. This displacement u1 is 0, means all the time my displacement u1 value will be all the time it is 0, means my equation should result all the time u1 should be 0. So that is what it is expected. That's what, if I eliminate, I know now this what is the value of u1. Why cannot I eliminate that equation from my particular entire global stiffness equations? And that is what it is called as an elimination approach. And this elimination technique is eliminate the variable which is fixed here. Fixed means you know the value of u1 which is equal to 0, and that is what the reason we can now we don't need this u1 to be evaluated. That's what, why cannot we remove this equation entirely from your global equations, and that is what it is done. And for that, to eliminate this u1 will now multiplied with these rows and these columns. So that's what I will now remove this entire stuff, and only I will get a 3 by 3 matrix. This is my one matrix, I can get it, and this is my another matrix I will get vector, and this is my vector. So I got a 3 by 3 matrix here, then one that is a 3 rows and 1 column, which is equal to here it is again 3 rows and 1 column, like this I will get. So this is what in a stiffness matrix, this is what in a vector, this is what in a force vector. So now this is one way by which we can do an elimination approach. Now we can use this 3 by 3 matrix for further solution, that is what in a Gauss elimination or Gauss-Seidel method. That is what we follow further. This is what in one step. Last time I not included into my presentation. Here I am going to tell you this is one technique by which we can do an elimination technique to convert this. And then finally apply the force, and these two forces as the internal forces are 0, you can put it here 0 and go on solving it. You will get a u2, u3 and u4 3 values, and quite easily get the rest of the result in later stage. So another approach is that is penalty approach. In penalty approach, what we do it, penalty means we are going to give some penalty to particular node. For what penalty we are going to give it? For this node, displacement is 0. So that somewhere should be reflected into your equation. And that displacement, how we can reflect it? My u1 value should result all the time to the 0. And if that u1 value is not resulting into 0, means somewhere we are going to do a mistake. We are not getting a proper solution. So for that purpose, you can do what you can do. Stiffness of this particular node or stiffness of this node is to be considered to be an infinite. Stiffness of this node should be very high, and that to be also it should be somewhere it is infinity or very high value compared to other stiffnesses of the, so that displacement of node 1 will be 0. Means this is to be considered, ideally it is to be considered as a rigid node, because it is not going to have any kind of a deformation. That is what the definition of rigid word. So now what we can do in penalty approach, we are going to now add up very high value of stiffness into this, and the rest of the things will be same, and we are going to solve by 4 equations and kind of things. So that is what in a way we can do it, and this is what it is called as a penalty approach. We are going to solve both the way, and we can now get a 4 by 4 equations. 4 unknowns are there, 4 equations are there, and we can easily solve the problem. So that is what a penalty approach. So we'll now solve the same problem with some numbers. Previously I have just told you each and everything using symbols. Here we are going to see it using numbers. That is what 3k, then k, 2k, k and 50 Newton force. It is applied and both the ends are fixed. Only one node is going to move it. This is what it is going to happen. Now I can convert. This is my one stiffness matrix. This is one spring. This is my second spring, third spring, fourth spring. Now I will give a node numbering for this. This is my node number 1. It is common to this also, node number 1. Here it is a node number 3. It is common to all the 3 elements. And then node number 2 here. I can give the numbering anywhere. I can give the node numbering here 2, and here I will now include 3. So this is what the way we can solve it, and you can just look at how it is done. So when we are going to solve this equation, make sure that your step, first of all, first step before going for this, I will just include one thing. Whenever we are going to solve this particular problems, my request is that follow certain procedure. I'm going to outline this procedure out here. First step into this is convert actual model into FEM model. That is what it is called as a discretization, FEM model. This step is called as a discretization. And this discretization will now represent, then bring one element, write down elemental equations. That is my step. That is a second step, elemental equation for each element, That is what you can do at in initial stage. In later stage you can go for, we know this element, you can go on assembling. That is not a big deal for it. Third step, then apply boundary conditions. So before applying it, I need to assemble it. Assembly will be done. Assembly is taking care of continuity. Don't forget this. Whenever we are going to do an assembly, make sure that it is going to following continuity, like a displacement continuity, then slope continuity, or higher order continuity kind of things. So that is the assembly process. And fourth step is apply boundary conditions. Boundary conditions, when you apply the boundary conditions, you may be leading to two approaches. One is the elimination approach, where we are going to eliminate the equation wherever you are going to fix the node. Elimination approach. And another one, you are going to lead to penalty approach. That is what we are going to do it, penalty approach. And once one of this we are going to further, then we'll get a fifth step, global solution equations. And that global solution equation, okay, will have a mostly number of unknowns, and equations will be the same. And these global equations will be solved using your Gauss elimination or Gauss-Seidel method, Gauss elimination or Gauss-Seidel method, whichever it is possible. We can use it and you can solve it. So it is preferred to go for a Gauss elimination because it is only single step solution, and Gauss-Seidel will have a multi-step solution, so it will take too much time for this. So this is what the way step by step we will go do it. So obviously we have in the first step two elemental equations. That is what we do it, elemental equation. In elemental equation, we first just look at the element number 1. Here it is a node 1 as node number 3 is there. So I will now write in 1, 3 here, 1, 3 here. not 2 here. Keep in mind, this is 2 3, it is written here, it is a 3 written here, because node element number 1 is representing connectivity table we need to formulate. I'll now write in a connectivity table here. So I will write here node number, then element number, then global node numbers I'll write. I'm not interested to know what the numbers in local way, global node numbers. For element number 1, what is the connectivity? In element number 1 is constructed using 1 and 3 nodes. Element number 2 is constructed using 1, and this is 4th number node. So that is what 1 4. Element number 3 is constructed using 4 and 3 number. So that is a 4 3. And element number 4 is constructed using 3 and 2 here. I'll write 3 and 2. Don't worry about this sequence. Later on it will get adjusted. You need not to worry about it. So now first element, you can just look at this element is 1 3 here, 1 3 here. I can write 3 minus 3 or 3 because it is 3k, and I can take k as a common, and I will get this equation. This is for element number 1. This is for element number 2. 2 is 1 4. Obviously I will write here 1 4 1 4 something. Then same way element number 3 is 4 3. It is written 4 3 4 3. Don't worry about changing the sequence. Keep the sequence as it is, because most of the matrices are symmetric, so will not affect much, but it is expected that keep the sequence as it is. If it is higher number is coming further or whatever it is going to happen, don't worry about it. Then you are going to have a 4th number node, it is 3 2, it is 3 2 3 2 kind of things. So when we are going to assemble this, okay, so when we are going to assemble this, it is expected that I will just rub this some part of it so that I can mark something more onto this. I'm going to, okay, and then here you can just observe one thing. This 3 by 3 node, this element 1, this is row 1, column 1, row 1 and column 1. This node will come and go and sit into this location. Then 3 means it is going to have 3rd column and 1st row. This is my 1st row and 3rd column. This is going to sit it here. So this element is going to sit it here. Then here it is in a 1 3, 1st row, 1st column and 3rd row. So here it is in a minus 3 will come, and this element will come from this end like this, and this element, that is a 3 3, this is what this element will come from this location like this. So this is what the way we have included first element. The same way we can have a second element, and we can just look at the second element. In second element we have a 1 here, okay. So in this 1 you can see this is one common node is there, that is 1 is common node for node number element number 1 and element number 2. So this will be getting added at this location. This is what the location. This minus 1 have a 1st row 4th column. This will come and sit it here. That is what it is going to do it. So here 4th row 4th column means this element is nothing but this part of it. This is what it is going to happen. Then same way here it is last 1st row 4th column means it will directly come and sit it here. That is what it is going to happen. So this is for second node, second element. The same fashion you can observe the rest of the elements are all included into this. Rest of the element means it is if you look into other parts, 3rd number element, that is a 4 4, it will come to this 2 will be added here, then 3 column and all this you can go on adding it. Don't worry about it, okay. Once we got this entire assembly of it, now we need to just look at it. हॅलो.
नमस्कार पुन्हा.
मी जरा मला लेक्चर चालू आहे, मी 5 मिनिटात फोन करू का दादा?
हो चालेल. ओके ओके.
Okay. Then next task is to apply the boundary conditions for it. And how we are going to apply the boundary condition is also most important into this. So here this node number 1 is fixed, node number 2 is fixed, node number 4 and 3 are not fixed, they are free enough. And force is applied on node number 3. So this all is to be included into your matrix, and that is possible by this way. This is node number 1 is fixed. I can whatever the d1 value should become 0, d2 value should be 0, and these two are displacement. This is node number 2 and node number 1 is fixed. So that is what it happens. And so now I can have this should be 0, this should be 0, like this, and this both will have wherever we are going to fix it. So applied mechanics principle tells you there is a reaction comes up on this. This is my reaction 1, this is my reaction 2, because they have fixed two ends. That is what it is going to happen. Now obviously when we are going to solve this is what we are going to do at an elimination approach. In elimination approach, our target is to remove these variables, that is d1 and d2 from the equations. This is one row and this is my one column, which will connect with the d1 parameter. So I will now remove this both. The same way d2 will remove, the d2 will be removed. This whole part is removed from your equations, and only left over part is this much part. This is what a solution part left for us. So that's what we'll take these equations below, and here force is applied and node number 3. So that's what will include 50 Newton as a force onto this, and 50 Newton force on node number 3. That's what third row it will be included. So now this equation you can hear 6 minus 2 minus 3 3 something. Here it is I will get 3 and 4 displacement. I can now solve these equations by a simple Cramer's rule or something. I need not to go for very complicated techniques, that is Gauss elimination or Seidel. This is two variables and you can use in a Cramer's rule to solve this. So here you can d3 you can get, d4 you can get, d3 1 upon k here you can get is common for both the things, and you will get in a 10, here it is in a 7.1. And once you substitute k value, you will get in a displacement values in maybe meter, or that depends on unit of the k itself. So once we receive this, next task is to determine the reactions for it. In reaction, what is going to happen in the reactions, we are going to deal with d1 and d2 equations. In this d1 d2 and r1 r2 equations. In this d1 d2, you can now split up these equations r1 r2. So you can now take this matrix. This is nothing but my matrix. Is to be multiplied with d1 and d2. You can just think of how these equations are constructed, or how it is to be converted into proper equations from the matrix part. And here I will get d1 and d2, and then I will get an r1 and r2, because this element and this element will be multiplied with d3 and d4, but this and this element will be multiplied with d1 and d2. So d1 and this d3 d4 is also there. So we can now substitute into this, and you can solve this, you will get reactions. When you add these two, this will come to benefit 50 Newton. Why it should come 50 Newton? Because this is nothing but a balance of it. Whatever amount of force you are going to externally apply for this, it is going, that entire load will be taken care by reactions, and then that's the reason your entire structure is stable enough, and that is what you can observe here. It is on a 50 Newton force as a reaction force. When you add up these two forces, you will get a 50 Newton force here. So this is what the way you can look into the spring element solutions. In a similar fashion, if you have any questions, you can ask into the chat window. Yeah. So do you have any questions? Vipul, do you have any question? Are you there? Shubham, you can put into the chat because you are not allowed to talk now. You all are muted here. Anyway, we'll take a next part of it because so one more problem we'll solve and then we'll pack up our session. So here we are just read out the problem. Then axial bar elements or bar structure is shown at here, and we have to determine the forces and reactions coming onto this. And so somebody has asked one very interesting question. Let me see that question. And how, sir, in last slide, how diagonal element become negative? Let go back to this previous slide so that we can say it. Okay. So which diagonal element you got in a negative? This -3. Okay. This -3 element you are going to talk at. So basically the thing is that when you see here, this is what a diagonal element of this should be all the time positive. Global matrix. This is what it is derived from it, and there is a possibly so -2. I don't think it is -2 anywhere. It is there. So you just look at one more slide back. No, there is no element as such which is minus a negative element into this. No, any diagonal element. Diagonal elements are this. So this is my first element, then second element, then my third element, and this is my fourth element. Diagonal element all are positive. There is no negative element into this. Okay. None of the element is negative in diagonal part. Now just look at this problem that it has a bar with different cross sections connected to it. This kind of a problem, when we are going to solve it using basically mechanics or strength of material problems, we'll find difficult because it has a change in the area, change in the material, so many parameters are, so many things you are going to include. That is what in the complexity of the problem you are going to increase. And such type of problem, quite easily you can solve it using finite element technique. And here we are going to look at how to solve this using FEM. So obviously, first of all, what is to be done? We need to convert that particular elements into this particular model into an FEM model. This first step is an FEM model, and that FEM model, this is one element, this is my second element, this is my third element. This I will give the node number 1, 2, 3 and 4, and element number 1 here, 2 here, 3 here. This is having a same area and same because this from the figure you can just observe. So now I can have an elemental equations. Elemental equations. First element I will take it. Okay. So first element, elemental equation for bar element. For bar element, your equation will be like this: AE divided by L, and here it is 1 minus 1 minus 1 1, and then U1 here, U2 here, then F1 here, F2 here. So this way we are going to construct it, and these numbers will be 1 2 here, and here I can say write 1 2 or 1 2 here also, like this we can write it. So now I can have on a first element will be A E divided by L, and here the value is 1 minus 1 minus 1 1, and numbers will be 1 2, then I will have a U1 here, then U2 here, then f1 here, f2 here, these two will get it, and here it is in 1 2. I can write it. This is for node number 1, element number 1. This is for element number 1, we got it. Similar fashion we can go for element number 2. So number will be only 2 3. This equation will be written like this: AE by L 1 minus 1. Here it is in area will be 2, material will be 2 here. Here it is in 1, here 1, it is L1. L1 is nothing but 200. Here length of the element is 200 here. That's what it is, L1 here. A1 is given here to 2400 or something, and kind of things. Okay. So you can go on doing this: minus 1, 1, and 1. Here it is now, number is 2, and this is 3. This is U2, then U3, then you can have F2, then F3, here it is 2 3. So this is for element number 2. I don't have an appropriate handwriting. I have a very bad handwriting as such. Previously it was very nice but nowadays because of a computer technique it got spoiled. So now similar way we can now write for an element number 3. Then next task is to assemble it. So this is nothing but a solved part of it. I'll get here K1, I will convert into this. K1 is nothing but my K1 value is A1 E1 upon L1 is my K1, and K2 value will be in somewhere. K2 will be A2 E2 divided by L2 like this. So you can substitute K1 value, you got it 84 into 10 raised to 4. K2 value will be got as 40 into 4, and then the unit of this is typically Newton per mm something kind of things, or Newton per meter, not in mm, because this and it is in it is in mm, so it will take an mm. So now later on we can assemble it, because this is very simply assemble, because this is 2 number is common to node number 1, 2, 3 number is common to node number 2 and 3. So only 2 and 3, these two diagonal element will be added up. It is nothing much more complications. So obviously this diagonal element will be getting added. K1 K1, this is K1 K2, and this is what in a K2 finally you will get this diagonal elements. All the time it will come to be in a positive. So here it is 84 plus 40, 40 plus 80, and you got these equations. And corresponding force vectors. So we are going to apply the force. Where we are going to apply the force? At node number 2. You are going to apply the force. So obviously you just look at the global force vector. So there you can substitute this force. That is 20 kilonewton force. So, and rest of the element is to be considered to be 0. This U1, U2, U3 are nothing but a displacement. Now we need to consider a penalty approach. Previously we have seen an elimination approach. In elimination approach, what we are doing, we are eliminating that variable. Here we are not going to eliminate it. In this penalty approach, we need to now identify maximum value of the K. That is what in a C I can say. So that is what in here 84 plus 24, this becomes 124 something, and that is what 10 raised to 4. This is what the value maximum of any of the key value of the elements. That is what you can get 124. Identify it. Now that value, because most of the time we'll find a difficulty, what this number is to be added. So that's what it is considered. Search all the elements into this, and then maximum of this value is to be included into this. Okay, that is what the way you can do it. So here we have included, because node number 1 is fixed, U1 is 0, and your U4 is also 0. So that's what here also it is added into this. That is what the way penalty approach will work. So now you know this value, U4 you know it, then this value is again 0 here. So you go on substituting this, construct one equation for this. So here 0 into U1 plus 0 into U2 plus minus 84 into 10 raised to 4 into U3 plus 84 plus 124 into 10 raised to 4. So that is what we are going to do. This then u4 will come and then equal to 0. So this is what it is constructed it out here. So this value will become a very high value because 10 raised to 4 is 1 is multiplied here. Again 10 raised to 4 is included more here. So that's what this is taken too high value, and this node is taking too much stiffness, and due to that u4 will result into very high value. That is what this number 10 raised to minus 5 somewhere. Very small value of displacement you can get it here. That is 10 raised to minus 5. It is almost near to the nanometers. And then we got an u3 as an equation into this. So you now get an u3 and u4 equations. Then now you derive this u3 from this, substitute in equation number 3. This is what my equation number 3. Then I will now 40 into u2 plus 124 into u3, 24 into u4, and then determine u2. So you got an your u2 is equal to some value. Similar fashion you can get an u1 also, and you can get the values for this, and from first equation you will get an u1 value. u1 you got this value, u2 you will get this, u3 you will get, and u4 you can just observe. This is very high value, very low value. Almost it is in 3.93 nanometers of deformation it is observed in fourth number node. This is approximate technique. That's what some deformation or something you all the time observe, and that is what on a u4 you can get it. And even you can observe in u1, here it is in a 10 raised to minus 5 something. Means it is somewhere 12 Newton meter forces, 12 Newton nanometer displacement you can observe it here. And very small displacement you can observe at these two ends. And this here you can see it is almost 180 micrometer displacement. Here it is in a 58 micrometer distance, 58 micrometer deformation you can observe it. So this is what the way practically how our system is. This is node number 1 and 2, 3 and 4. This is fixed and this is also fixed. So obviously this u4 should result into the 0. So it is approximately equal to 0 itself. u1 is also equal to 0 practically, but it is again near to the 0. It is not exactly to the 0 because this is what an approximate method. This is finite element is approximate method. It doesn't give you the exact result all the time. That's what it is used here. Once you got these all displacement, now you go on substituting these values into determine R1 and R2. R1 into U1, you can this C value into R1. U1 you will get this equation. That is what. So 151 nanom 151 is one reaction, 148 is another reaction. So altogether will come somewhere 200 Newton and will not be exactly equal to 200 kilonewton. The reason for this, because again you have assumed this kind of a deformation it is going to happen, but which is practically it is not possible. It is even the displacement is less than, and what are the highest stiffness values you are taken into account, and that is going to result in a problem. And if you take still higher value, you can get an again lower value of displacement at these nodes. So once you got this, the next part is determine a strain, and the strain is determined by a simple equation. Already I told you epsilon is equal to material property into u1 minus u2 upon length of the element. Here it is in a u1 will result, here it is a u2 will result, and difference of these two will result into the 63 Newton as a force. Here it is in a minus 81 as in a force and minus 20 as in a force. You just look at one thing into this particular model. Once again I will draw the model here so that you can get in a practical feel of it, how it works. This is what in a model, it is fixed here, and you are going to apply the force at this point. So this is what our force you are going to apply. So this particular part of your model is under tension. This is what an tension part, and this another two parts are in compression part. This this is under compression. This is also under compression. This is what in a compression part, and both will this value should result a positive stress value, and this should result negative stress value. I think you can observe here. So node number 1 is positive 63 Newton value, and it is what it is observed into this element. Here it is an 81.3, it is negative value. So this is what for node number element number 2, and here it is a minus 20, and again it is in compression value. So that way, from practical point of view, your model and your answer is perfect enough. Whenever we are going to solve the problem of such things, make sure that you just visualize whether that particular element is coming under tension, compression, or kind of things. And if it is coming in tension, that value should result positive. And if somewhere your value is coming to the negative, then that indicates somewhere we done a mistake in previous. And make sure that you can correct it. This is one way you can verify it. And if I am going to apply the force of 200 Newton here, the reaction of this node and this node, both this I will say it is an R4, and here it is my R1. This R1 plus R4 plus 200 should result into the 0. This shows an equilibrium of my system. This is typically a equilibrium equation you can observe, and it should result, and sometimes you will not get exactly equal to 0. Maybe somewhere you are getting 2 into 10 raised to minus 6 or some value. So what that indicates, your solution is approximately matches, or your entire system in equilibrium for approximate equilibrium. I can't say it is in a perfect equilibrium. And there are different ways by which simulation will be done, and ANSYS or kind of a simulation. So when you are going to match these reactions with external force, external applied force, and that force should be matching, and that is what it is called as a convergence of it. And that is what the one way you can have a convergence of these two. These two should match. This equation should get match anywhere. That equilibrium, it should satisfy equilibrium, force equilibrium. Similar fashion, there is a displacement equilibrium equation will be there. Means, what are the displacement you are going to apply, displacement you are getting at the fixed node, it should be u1 should be 0 or u4 should be 0 all the time. And but it is not coming yet, and it should come. Then and then my solution is perfect enough. And that is what the way you can have a displacement conversion, you can get it into this displacement convergence. And this type of convergence, we will discuss these convergences in later sessions as we are going to solve this ANSYS, numericals ANSYS. When we are taking a part of ANSYS, I will give a more detail. Similar fashion, we can have an energy conservation, energy convergence, so many conversions will be there. And so that is what for today's session, I think I finished my time. I completed my part. And similar fashion, you can just look into the elimination approach. So you got eliminating first equation, second equation. So here you can just observe two equations, 2 and 3 equations. U1 was there and U4 was eliminated from this equation, and we got 2 by 2 equations here. And we got a deformation U2 here, then U3 here, and same as in a displacement in previous case. Now you can get an equations from R1 here, R2 here, and R1 will result into 151, here it is in a 48780, and if I add these two, I will result into 200 Newton. That is what an externally applied force. So this two values, when you are going to add up this value and this value, should be equal to this value. this should be added, and then my entire system is in equilibrium. That is what, in a way, you can put up in a cross check. That is force equilibrium of the structure. R1 plus R4 is equal to whatever the externally applied load, that is 200 kilonewton. So this is what for today's session, and thank you.